Hi, I'm Dr. Jennifer Lee, but most people call me Dr. Jenn. I am a benzodiazepine withdrawal / bind coach and educator. I help people who are navigating benzodiazepine withdrawal or bind, which is benzodiazepine-induced neurological dysfunction, and I help educate any healthcare professional about benzodiazepines. And I am starting a new series to have some discussions around all things benzodiazepines. And this series is entitled Life Lessons. And today I want to share with you some lessons that I've learned, but a lot of my clients who've gone through benzo withdrawal, what they've learned. So I want to share some things that happen to us when we're on the other side of benzo withdrawal. And we will certainly get to what can we do to help manage our symptoms, how do we deal with friends and families, how do we deal with the medical community. We'll get to that. But today, the life lesson is all about the wisdom and the insights that we gain on the other side of benzo withdrawal. So I hope that you will get nice and cozy if you're in benzo withdrawal, as cozy as you can get, having a dysregulated nervous system. But I hope that you will snuggle up, get cozy. If you want a nice beverage or if you want a snack, pause this, go get that, get comfortable, and let's really spend some time together to talk about the things, the possibilities, the wonderful gifts that are on the other side of benzo withdrawal. And before we do that, if you've paused and now we've come and now you've come back, before we do that, let's just take a moment together to just get settled. Let's just take some calming, centering breaths. Let's just keep turning our attention back to this perfect present moment. And yes, your thoughts might keep tugging you in a different direction, negative thoughts, negative feelings, because that's what happens when your nervous system is in the protect state of fight, flight, or freeze, which is where we are most of the time in benzo withdrawal or bind, through no fault of our own. It's because of those downregulated GABA receptors. So let's just observe anything that's negative, and let's just keep coming back to this moment. Knowing that everything is okay and that we are safe. And let's set an intention. What do you hope to get from listening to this series, to this podcast, to this video? What do you hope to get? And even though this is a very one-sided relationship, you're just watching me and we're not live, can't communicate, there is this beautiful circle and cycle of things. What do you hope to give? So what will you be receiving? What do you hope to receive? And then what is your intention for giving? And it might not be something that you can give right away, because, as I said, this is not a reciprocal relationship. But maybe you can give something after. Maybe you can reach out to somebody. Maybe you can give more to yourself. But let's keep in mind those intentions of the giving and the receiving. All right, let's get started. Life on the other side of benzo withdrawal, bind. For most of us, it's delicious, exquisite, juicy, fun, daring, bold, creative, confident. It's probably most things that we always hoped that we could have in our lives, but never really knew how to achieve them. Now, maybe some of you had those things, and maybe you were put on a benzodiazepine because you had a sprain, or you had a muscle twitch. Maybe you never had a day of anxiety in your life. or never no depression, no psychological, issues. But you probably experienced them during benzo withdrawal. So maybe you come to this party already really intact, but maybe not. Many of us were put on a benzodiazepine because we had emotional issues, we had psychological issues, for whatever reason. My story is I have sexual abuse in my history from a pedophile in my neighborhood. I was raised in the 60s, and the rule of thumb, at least where I grew up, was, kind of spare the rod, spoil the child. So it was a combination of things. There's nature versus nurture. We come into the world, I think, with a kind of a set personality, so to speak, whether that has to do with how many GABA receptors we have or whatnot. But we each have this unique, beautiful gift that we've been giving of kind of like our inner structure of our personality. But then there is the nurture part. And many of us experience little t trauma or big T trauma. And that changes us because 24 hours a day, from the moment we draw our first breath, our brains are hardwired to scan the environment, asking what social neuroscientists call the big brain question, and that is, are you there for me? Am I safe? And it asks us of everything, people, places, and things. If we get enough yes answers, then our brains, they develop and they organize and they grow optimally. We're probably going to grow with a lot of connection to this part of the real estate of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, hopefully a lot of connection and a big beefy ventromedial prefrontal cortex. But we are probably going to be rational, have confidence. We're just going to be at our best. But if we get a lot of no answers, no, we're not safe, no, people, places, and things aren't there for us, or we get a big no, a big trauma, or a handful or more of big traumas, most likely our brain is going to have a lot of connections to the threat detection circuitry, to the limbic system. So we're going to be more reactionary. And we're not going to be able to think rationally and calmly. We're not going to have a lot of access to the parts of the brain, especially the prosocial areas of the brain, that will allow us to be healthier and happier. So we are going to probably be the ones who experience the emotional issues, the psychological issues, and however they come packaged. For me, as I grew up, it was drug abuse, alcohol abuse, at times promiscuity, anorexia for a while, and self-harm, self-mutilation. Those were the ways that I dealt with my overwhelming emotions and my trauma of all the things, all the big no's and all the little no's answers to my brain's question, are you there for me? So by the time I was in my early 20s, I had a rough road. Now, when I was 21, I had 2 steel rods placed into my back, Harrington rods, and the vast majority of my back is fused together. I had scoliosis. And so I had this major back surgery, and I was in a body cast for 7 months. I was also put on Valium, Percocet, and Somas. So Valium for the muscle relaxation part of it, the Percocet for pain, and then the Soma, again, another muscle relaxant. And then after I don't know how long I was on it, they just quit prescribing them, and I went cold turkey. I thought I had a nervous breakdown. I had some other things going on in my life that were really intense. So I thought those things fueled kind of a nervous breakdown. I had no idea what benzo withdrawal was, and clearly none of my doctors did. In fact, most doctors still don't know. But, go back to 1980, and yeah, I had a horrible time. That was my first withdrawal. Had no idea what was happening to me. But eventually, over time, I got out of it. I still had anxiety and I had some panic from time to time, but I had had some of that prior. So now we fast forward and I get married and I have 4 children. I have 4 children in less than 4 years because I have a set of identical twins, my last pregnancy, and I'm in a emotionally abusive marriage. And somehow, I don't know how, but somehow I found the strength to leave. I think because I knew that I carried all this shame and guilt and just from my childhood. I so wanted to protect my children. I always wanted them to feel safe with me. I wanted them to be safe in the world. And I just wanted to love them and nurture them. I wanted to hear them. I wanted them to know that they could tell me anything and that I would love them and it would be okay. And if they had problems, we'd figure it out together if they wanted my help. I just wanted my children to grow up with more self-love, self-confidence, all the good stuff than I did. So I think that gave me the courage to leave. And I did. But it was not pretty, to say the least. And I was already starting to have flashbacks to my sexual abuse. That happens for some of us, but it got to the point where it was uncontrollable. I remember I was driving and I had all 4 of the kids. I remember which street. I was on El Camino in San Mateo. And I just had this horrible flashback, and it was like it was just happening right then. And even though I knew where I was, I knew the shops, I knew the streets, I knew the street lights, it was so frightening. And I just knew that I needed help. And I was, it was just really awful what was going on between me and my now ex-husband. And anyway, it was just way too much. I was having more and more panic. It was just horrible. I just felt like I couldn't be a good mom. So my friends encouraged me, to do what friends tell us to do: go get help, go see a psychiatrist. So that's what I did. And within just a couple of minutes, my psychiatrist diagnosed me, and this is his diagnosis: you have a bad brain. I will never forget that. Not you've got trauma, you're going through this huge life crisis. I'm feeling very threatened, and there were so many other things going on that made me always feel like I had to be defending myself from my 4 children. Nobody ever mentioned trauma. It was, you have a bad brain. And he said, you will need to stay on this medication the rest of your life, much like somebody who has diabetes has to stay on insulin the rest of their life. And he also told me he was giving me a baby dose. It was 2 milligrams of clonazepam. That is not a baby dose, my friends. That's the equivalent of 40 milligrams of Valium. And I dutifully swallowed those pills for 18 years. First 9 years I was on 2 milligrams. I got out of California, moved to Colorado. Oh my gosh, life was amazing. I miss the Rockies so much. Moved back there in a heartbeat. We're in a sleepy little town called Basalt, right next to Aspen and Snowmass. Kids went to school in Aspen. Had a gorgeous home on a third of an acre or more, I can't remember now, with, butted up to BLM land, just hills, gorgeous. I was so at peace. And so I got off my benzo, my Klonopin or clonazepam, and in 72 hours I went into florid withdrawal. I thought I was going crazy. It was horrible. So I called a therapist I was working with, and of course, convinced me I'm crazy and see, I really do need this med. So I just reinstated to 1 milligram at night. So from there on out, for the next 9 years, that was my dose. And over time, I kept having afternoon just horrible sensations in my body and shaky and anxious. And a glass of wine or two or three or four took that away. And I started to drink on a very regular basis. Now, I cannot blame it all on my inner dose withdrawal or my tolerance withdrawal. I'm an alcoholic. I do know that. And I have, count my blessings every day. I've got 12 years of sobriety, and I really know in my heart I will never drink again because I will never do anything to damage those GABA receptors again. So by the time I got to getting off the medication, I had been drinking every night. So my GABA receptors were really fried. And to make a long story short, I worked with 3 different doctors. One was a psychiatrist. One was, I don't know what, I think she was an internist, I can't remember. And the other was an addiction specialist who actually ran the addiction ward up in the hospital. So he, had a lot of clout in the community, the medical community in my area. All 3 of them gave me horrific advice because, again, most medical practitioners are so uneducated about benzodiazepines. I was tapered off a half of my dose in 8 days, and I kept trying to get down a little more slowly. Then a second expert said taper back up until you get more stable because I was bedridden and just, it was horrible. So I got up to 0.9, so I'm almost at my full dose. Then I started tapering using a water taper a little bit more slowly, got down to 0.6. I forget now, 3.5, somewhere in there. It was the equivalent of about 13 milligrams of Valium. And then the addiction specialist said, and I remember to go see him, I'm using a cane at this point. And was told a lot of incorrect things. But he gave me phenobarbital and said, just, you'll be fine, taper, not taper, but just don't take anymore and go home and you'll detox. You'll be okay in a few days. And I thought, oh, thank God, because it had been 8 months of tapering and suffering and bedridden and all this nonsense and fear and terror and panic and intrusive thoughts and pain and dizziness and weakness and tingling and burning. You guys, if you're going through it, you know what I'm talking about. So I did. That's what I did. And 72 hours later, it's pretty much collapsed, and a neighbor took me to the ER, and I was in the hospital for a week. And I came home, and I was in really, really, really bad shape, hallucinating. I hallucinated every day for about 6 weeks. But I made a promise to myself I would not end my life, and I would not reinstate. And so that's what happened. I didn't reinstate, and I didn't end my life. And I ended up 6 weeks at a place called Sierra Tucson. I spent a week in one psych ward. I spent a weekend in another. It was rough, folks. It was really rough. It was rough. So, when I tell you about all the good stuff on the other side, I spent a lot of that time, and thank you for listening, because I wanted you to know I had a really rough recovery. I had a rough withdrawal and bind experience. It wasn't easy peasy. So I want you to know I was truly at the bottom of the barrel, about as low as a human being can go. Couldn't walk, couldn't do anything on the internet, it was just, and here I'm really tech savvy and I love to write. In fact, I wrote this book during Benzo Withdrawal. I'm so proud of this book. It has nothing to do with Benzo Withdrawal. It's just a story that I've always wanted to tell. And I wrote it lying on a mattress on the floor in the front part of my little house. I rented a duplex with a bucket next to the mattress so I could just get up and squat over it to pee because my pot symptoms were so bad. I wrote this during a setback. I lost my train of thought. It was bad. That's all I'm gonna say. It was really, really bad. And remember now, I've lived my life with all this drama, trauma, and all these not healthy ways of coping, including alcoholism. And then my brain falls apart, and I've got this, long time of healing, and then boom, then I'm then I'm beyond it. So what is life like now? And how did I get here? So there are 4 cornerstones of well-being, and they apply to every human being on the planet, not just those of us harmed by a benzodiazepine. And they are eat right, which is a whole food, plant-based diet. Move enough, not too much, because that's too much stress on the body. And we don't want to move too little, because 80% of the brain's neurons, are, give or take, are dedicated to movement. We're designed to be in movement. And movement actually helps metabolize stress hormones and does a lot of good things for our brain. Just does a lot of good for everything about being a human being. Stress less. So we need to reduce our stress. But we also need to understand Dr. Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory, the states that our nervous system can be in, and why they get into those states and how they affect us. What do they make us think and feel and, maybe even act out on? We need to understand those things. The parasympathetic ventral vagal response, called the connect, and the sympathetic fight or flight or parasympathetic dorsal vagal freeze. That's the protect state. So reducing stress, we can reduce stress in our environment and make a nice, happy home. We can avoid confrontation and stressful things. We can stay off of social media and the news. We can avoid arguing with people who have different religious beliefs or political beliefs, whatever. But we can also reduce stress by understanding how our nervous system works. And then the last cornerstone, which all 3 cornerstones helped me a great deal, but this one, I think, was really, truly, for me, the catalyst, the lever, whatever, word you want to use, that really grew and healed me and transformed me. And that last one is love well. So let me say them again. Eat right, move enough, stress less, and love well. And love well isn't just feeling love in the world, which is just wonderful, of course, but it's being love in the world. Kind, caring, compassionate, generous, forgiveness, curiosity, service to others, humility, grace, acceptance, patience, awe, wonder. I might be forgetting a few, but you get the idea. It's all of those are outward focus, because when we're focused on ourselves, that's usually when we're in the protect state, because it's about us and we need to defend ourselves somehow. And Buddha said it so beautifully, where there is self, there is suffering. So the 4th cornerstone, love well, is a way of being in the world, which is an outward focus, and it helps reduce our suffering, and it grows connection to the prosocial regions in the brain that actually kind of work as bouncers to anxiety and depression. And it fuels our rational and logical and life and love affirming thoughts and feelings and actions. So when we're in that parasympathetic ventral vagal response, we're at our best. Our little mitochondria, the little engines in all of our cells that give us energy and really, to me, they're just life. They're at their best. Our brains, everything. We're just at our best. Scientists call that connect state rest, digest, renew. And that's where we want to be. So, the 4th cornerstone really helped me understand how to be love in the world. And all of those things then started rewiring my brain and my nervous system, so I no longer had my pre-existing anxiety. I no longer had my self-loathing, my self-doubt. The last thing in the world that I would want to do would be to harm me. So this beautiful self-love comes into play as we heal, when we get to the other side. And I know that we can get to the other side even without the 4 cornerstones, and we can probably be in a better place. I get that. But if you truly want to heal, if you really want to heal, because I didn't want to just heal from benzo withdrawal. I wanted to get to the other side and heal from all the crap that got me on a benzo in the first place. And it's those 4 cornerstones. It's those four cornerstones. I didn't have to work with a therapist. I just didn't have to put anything into practice other than embrace these every single day and live them and understand them. And over time, they healed me and made me whole and transformed me and polished me. Now, some people might need a little help on the other end. I'm not saying don't work with somebody who can help you, but I'm just saying my story is I didn't need that. These four cornerstones were enough for me. Now, yes, I have a doctorate of psychology that I earned in my 40s, and I was very fortunate to study under two of the top leading traumatologists, Dr. Peter Levine and Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. And so I know a lot about trauma and how to heal. So I know I bring to the party some things, but let me tell you, nothing in my training, nothing in any textbook taught me anything about benzo withdrawal or really taught me anything about what I needed in order to heal. Trust me, I had worked with therapist after therapist after therapist for so long trying to figure out why I was so scared all the time. Why did I not like myself? Why was I just so afraid to just be me? And then eventually, I didn't speak about any of these traumas until I was in my 30s after my twins were born. And so even knowing why still didn't help. Like why just kind of keeps us stuck in the problem. I needed what and how. What do I do to get better? How do I do that? And so benzo withdrawal came along and said, let me give you a minute here to give you a place to do your healing. And now I can honestly look back and be grateful for my benzo withdrawal and bind journey. I truly can. I don't know of any other way that I would have gotten here. And I love where I'm at. I love the tools. I love the wisdom. And that's really kind of what this particular talk today is about. It's about the wisdoms and the insights. And so those four cornerstones are how you gain the wisdom, how you get the insights. It's how you gain resilience. And it's those four cornerstones are so important. So on this side, this is what I know to be true. We are here on this planet to love. That's my truth. Maybe your truth is different, but that's my truth. And that is honestly what helped me so much getting well from benzo withdrawal. Because I know that really the only thing that gets rid of fear is love. And so I said, I'm going to be love. I'm going to be love in the world. And I kept turning to love. And so I have a laundry list of people who have hurt me in my life. And so I said, I've got to forgive them. Because otherwise I'm just carrying around this stuff. I mean, handful of those people are dead and gone now. My anger at them isn't affecting them. It's affecting me. So there were a couple of different things that I put into play for practicing forgiveness. And one of the ways was when I would pray at night, I just, would ask God, whatever God is, to protect my family, protect my children, watch over, And so I started including those people that I carried a lot of hate and resentment and animosity around in my heart towards. And guess what? After a while, I really started meaning it. I really started meaning I want them to be safe too. I want them to be loved. And then from there, I began to realize that damaged people damage people. And even though I have never done some of the things the people that have hurt me have done, I have certainly hurt other people. And I learned for me that I couldn't just say, well, yeah, I did that, but I've never done this, and puff myself up and get on my high horse. Aren't I so special and wonderful that, I didn't do this terrible thing? Because at the end of the day, hurting somebody is hurting somebody is hurting somebody. And we don't get to put it all in a comparison and on a scale and say, oh, yours weighs a little more than mine. We are all imperfect people, and we are all capable of hurting others, and we have all hurt others. So I began to realize that I looked back on, my past behavior again. I listed all those unhealthy ways that I coped. And I realized I was doing my best. Because if I knew something different, or if something felt different, my thoughts were different, I would have done something different. So I realized that I was doing my best as a broken, damaged person. So the broken, damaged people that have hurt me, they were doing their best. So we're all in it together. And that's where that beautiful word called grace magically appeared on my heart and soul. Grace, unearned merit. And I thought, I've just got to extend grace to them, just like I hope that people will extend grace to me. And I hope that people will forgive me from the things that I've done that have been hurtful. So I began to fully understand more that we, unless we've got awareness, we are at the mercy of however our brains and nervous system have been cobbled together. And if you've got trauma, that big brain question answered no in your past, folks, my friends, your brain and nervous system's probably not been cobbled together in the most glorious, way. You're probably not going to be thinking and feeling and doing your very best that you would be able to do if your brain if your life had had other experiences, more yes answers to your big brain question. So the more I fully grasped that and understood that, I no longer had to work at forgiveness for others. It just magically appeared. And this compassion just magically appeared. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not a saint. I'm not up on some magic mountaintop contemplating my navel. No, I'm still a human being. I'm still very flawed. But at least I know my flaws, and I know when I get into that protect state and it's me, and I'm judging people, places, things, should. I know that that's not where I want to be. I know that my nervous system is in protect state, and I want to get back into the ventral vagal. And that's where acceptance and patience helps a great deal, and amazing amounts of gratitude. So that's one thing that I've noticed on this side is I have all these tools now. When I get pulled over into that protect state, yeah, I can go there, but I'm aware that I'm there and it's uncomfortable. And I have all these tools. One of the first things that I go to is acceptance and gratitude. Grace, forgiveness, compassion, understanding. And so I just don't have the anxiety and the panic and all that I used to have. Life is so much easier now. We have wisdom, because that's what wisdom is. We can only express and live in wisdom when we're in a parasympathetic ventral vagal response, in that connect state. So now I know every day, every moment, I'm walking this very fine line between wisdom and what we call ignorance. Ignorance meaning when I'm judging somebody, that means I'm ignorant of knowing what's going on in their lives. And if you happen to watch Ted Lasso, the episode last night or whenever it was oh gosh, can't think of, the captain freaked out and was yelling at the guy in the stands because he said the F word, not the FU word, the other FU. And he had just found out that his friend Colin is gay. And there was this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful discussion about not judging and accepting and being there for people. And so you gain this wisdom to where you understand that when you are judging people, that's ignorant because you don't know what's going on. And the scene that really summed that up and brought it kind of home was when Roy was giving the what do you call it, the interview, the press, and he shared a story. And he said, you just don't know what's going on in people's lives. And we don't. I'm sure that people looked at me and couldn't understand why I acted the way I acted way back when. Not in benzo withdrawal. Nobody, unless you're going through it, could understand that. But just all my old ways of being. Nobody could really understand it. We don't know what goes on in people's lives. We don't know what's gone on in their past lives that have wired their brain and their nervous system that makes them think and feel and act the way that we do. So the insights that you get, or that you have better ways of being in the world. You are more able to look beyond the black and white of things and see a lot of the gray. And believe it or not, in that gray reside some beautiful colors. So on the other side of benzo withdrawal, it's not just that you get your strength back and the intrusive thoughts stop and you can actually plan to do something and you go back to work, you can, resume a relationship or start a new relationship. You can shower, you can get out of bed, you can walk, you can exercise. That's wonderful. But the real magic is this stuff that I'm talking about, this post-traumatic wisdom. And this journey that we've been on, and if we really embrace those 4 cornerstones and keep our hearts open, it's this journey of self-discovery. And I encourage you, if you go on this journey, not to get stuck in the why. Like I said, I worked with a handful of therapists. They could tell me why I was all messed up. Well, Jen, this man abused you, and this happened, and this man abused you, and blah, blah, and da-da-da-da. All right, great, I know why, but I'm still a mess. It's the what and the how. So if you're going on this road, on this beautiful journey, this path of self-discovery, I encourage you to keep looking for the what and the how. And one of these, a great tool, it's a better way to put it, is this question that I still use to this day over and over and over and over and over. That is, what is the most loving thing to think, feel, or do? And sometimes it's to not listen to someone. Sometimes it's to set a real healthy boundary in a polite, caring way. Sometimes it's to practice some radical self-care. Sometimes it's to put my tongue to the roof of my mouth and keep my mouth shut. What is the most loving thing to think, feel, or do? That question fuels the what and the how. At least it did for me. And let me just say, I know I've been talking for a while, and I'm hopefully going to be doing more of these longer episodes to hopefully be helpful. I would love to get your input, please, in the comments below. Let me know what you'd like me to talk about. This kind of series is just going to be life lessons, because I've got a bunch of them. And I hope that in sharing them with you, that they're food for thought for you, fruit for the juicer. Talking about putting my tongue to the roof of my mouth, when I was going through grad school, I had a wonderful, wonderful professor, Dr. Mark Brady, and he taught a transformational listening course. Man, that was truly, it was transformational. It was life-altering. Because what I learned was that how we listen and the things that we say back, how we communicate, it makes a difference in creating the universe, creating creation. Because how we affect other people is going to change their lives for better, for worse. So one of the things we want to be mindful of is that we don't want to put other people into that protect state. And so one of the things that we try to do is to communicate in a way that is going to keep people in the connect state, that parasympathetic ventral vagal state, or to invite them to let go of the protect state and, hey, let's come back over here to the connect state. So one of the things that we know is that judgment triggers the protect state in every human being. It's not just physical threats. Yes, we know if somebody, if we think they're going to hurt us physically, or if a car is coming at us, whatever, we know we're going to be in the protect state. We're going to jump out of the way, protect ourselves, whatever we need to do. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is that we go into that protect state when we feel emotionally threatened, and we can feel emotionally threatened when people judge us or evaluate us. I mean, think about how many times you've taken a test. Most people have some sort of anxiety around taking a test because we're being evaluated or being judged. But we get judged and evaluated all the time, implicitly or explicitly. So when we respond to somebody, we want to be very careful to not judge them. So if you want to set a boundary with somebody, or try to explain to them, how what they're doing is disturbing to you, here's a great tool. It's when you, I feel. So you just need to say when you, like when people interrupt us, that's a way of judging us in a roundabout way, because really, people, when somebody interrupts you, what they're saying is, you're just not that important because what I have to say is more important. So that in and of itself is a judgment. So what you would say would be, when you interrupt me, I feel frustrated. So you don't want to say, when you're being, a jerk, I'm frustrated. Because anytime you use any type of word that's going to have some judgment in it, not just the facts, you've lost them, because immediately then they are going to say, well, I'm not a jerk, and defend themselves. And then what your needs are totally lost. They're all about them, because that's what the protect state is. It's this inner focus, me, me, me. So when you, I feel, is a great way of communicating to help other people stay in the connect state or to get back there. But we can get easily triggered. Oh my goodness, especially in benzo withdrawal. So I know it's a challenge. That's why this tool, tongue to the roof of the mouth, is so good, because we don't have to say everything that we're feeling. And we certainly don't want to speak as soon as we're reactive. Give yourself some time to pause and then choose. Decide to respond. How do I want to respond? What's the most loving thing to think, feel, or do? And the doing part would be to say something that's kind and compassionate, helpful. You can pass it through those gates. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? So on the other side of benzo withdrawal is this beautiful, delicious, juicy, wonderful place of wisdom, of insights, of resilience, inner strength, acceptance, patience, gratitude. We know more about self-care, self-love. And we really can't love others until we truly love ourselves. And I'm not talking about big grandiose stuff, I'm talking about that fourth cornerstone, and one of those words in that fourth cornerstone is humility. And humility doesn't mean being a doormat. It means right-sized. And so it's having this right-sized sense of self, this appropriate sense of self. And in that, we just learn to practice self-care. And self-care is not selfish. Self-care is self-care. So that is what is on this other side for many of us, and it's certainly my story. I am no longer carrying around my abuse. I can't tell you the last time truly, it just doesn't cross my mind. I can watch movies with that topic in it and I don't get triggered. And in the past, I would leave the movie theater just panicking and shaking. And I remember having to go home one time and got into a hot shower, just like needed to shower it off of me, and just curled up in the bottom of the shower, crying, just sobbing for the longest time. Things used to really trigger me. They don't anymore. I really have truly rewired my brain and my nervous system and my heart and soul. I don't have my pre-existing anxiety. I don't have panic attacks. I have all these luscious tools to navigate my life. And I am truly the best. I'm 65 now, and I'm truly the best version of me. Yes, I'm losing my pretty. That comes with aging. And I'm losing muscle strength and muscle mass. I can't lift and do the things I used to do. That comes with aging. But other than just the natural wear and tear of aging that I can't do anything about, or choose not to do anything about, I'm certainly not going to go and do a bunch of cosmetic stuff. What you see is what you get. I am the best version of me, truly. Inside and out, I love this person that I have become. And if you had asked me in my 20s and 30s if I would ever be able to get to where I really wanted to be in life, I would have said probably not. I truly didn't know how to navigate because my brain and nervous system had been wired, I should say, because I got so many no answers to that big brain question, are you there for me? And I did the best I could, as everyone else is doing. So if you had told me in my 20s and 30s this is who I was going to be, I would have never, ever believed you. Never in a million years. So I wake up every day with so much gratitude. I'm sober. My God, I'm sober. I don't think about when's it going to be 5 o'clock so I can open up a bottle of wine. I don't think about, oh my God, I've got to take a Klonopin. You'd be hard pressed to find even Tylenol in my medicine cabinet. I have more friends in my life now than I've ever had. And they're true friends and they're good friends. And they know that I love them. Before I walked into a room, and trust me, I sucked all the oxygen out of it because it was about me, always. And I didn't even have to talk about me. But trust me, there was an air about me. I was just this tractor beam for all sorts of things. I have really, really, really good friends that I love with everything in me, and they love me. I'm truly healed and whole. And the way I got here was benzo withdrawal. So I will wind this up by saying, I truly hope that you will use this time to heal. Not just those downregulated GABA receptors and who knows what else is going on, serotonin and dopamine and norepinephrine, who knows. I hope that you will use this time to heal you, to let your nervous system get changed for the better, to really embrace these 4 cornerstones of well-being, so that they will do for you what they did for me, which is to just heal us, rewire us, transform us. I really hope that you will use this time as the petri dish for growing all this good stuff. And it's going to mean having patience, practicing acceptance, distracting, lots and lots of gratitude. You don't have to be grateful for benzo withdrawal. You might once you get past it like I have, but in it, no. You don't have to be grateful for it if that's not your truth, but you can certainly be grateful while you're in it. What else can you be grateful for? And it can be small things, anything. And practice a lot of self-care, a lot of self-care. Try your best to connect with others who understand benzo withdrawal. That's why I have the support group, Heal with Dr. Jenn. And we focus on those 4 cornerstones all the time. And everybody in that group is aware, yes, I'm going to help you get through benzo withdrawal, but I got bigger and better plans for you. I really want you to go on to live your highest and best. I really do. Because I want to live in a world where we're all operating from our highest and best. Can you imagine what that world would be like? There'd be no wars. There'd be no violence. It would be fantastic. And I know there's, 8-something billion of us. So I know the chances of me helping all those people are probably not going to happen. But I can help you. One person, one heart, one mind, one soul at a time. And that's what my work is all about. Whether I'm doing podcasts, videos, my support group, one-on-one, my my blogs, my courses for the medical community, and trust me, I've got some coming up for people in withdrawal, or my social media posts. Everything about my work is to reduce suffering in the world. One heart, one mind, one body, one soul, one nervous system at a time. I really want everybody to live their highest and best. So if I can help you in any way, please reach out. Join my support group, one-on-one coaching, go read some of my blogs, spend some time curled up and watch some of the videos. I promise I'm going to put more out for you. But I'm here to help. So I can just reassure you on this side, yes, you're going to gain back everything that went wrong in your body. You'll get your strength and you'll get your equilibrium and your sleep and, your clear thinking and your moods, will be stable. You'll get all that back. That's a given. But I really hope that you will get to this side and you will know what it feels like to live in a place from wisdom, from grace. And you'll know when you're on that fine line between wisdom and ignorance. You'll know when you get pulled over into ignorance. You'll just know, I'm anxious, I'm angry, I'm nervous, I'm frustrated, I'm resentful, I'm judgmental. You'll just know, whoops, let's get back. Let's get back. And you'll just know. And you'll self-correct and you'll course correct. And you will have the most amazing life you could have ever dreamed of. That's my story. And it can be your story. So let's end as I end with my groups all the time. Are you ready? It's a wonderful affirmation. I'll say it twice. I am safe. I am healing. I will recover. One more time. I am safe. I am healing. I will recover. Because those things are true. Please take very good care of yourself. And I will see you next time in the next episode of Life Lessons.